Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday, and it's Rumor and Innuendo, and I am Dominic D'Angelo of SEScoops.com, adfreeshows.com, three other podcasts now, and I'm here with Robert Karpelis, WE Creative _ish. Robert, how are you today?
I'm great. Full transparency, I'm sitting here waiting for the Xfinity technician who was supposed to be here between 10 and 12, and then I got a call that he's going to be running late, and I'm like, dude, I got Rumor and Innuendo going on here, so I may have to step out for a moment if he arrives on time. Hopefully, like Rosie and Jamal, who'll give me a 3-minute warning. Let's say hi to some of the folks joining us live in the chat. Antonio Santos says, happy Tuesday, like my MTV. I want R&I. Dre Owens says, let's get it. And Jim Broderick says, good morning, gents. Billy in the CW Tuesday. It is. We have got some Billy in the CW news for today. In fact, maybe we'll start with it, Dom. You put together the run sheet. Where are we going with today?
Oh, okay. We're gonna recap Raw. The King of the Ring developments and Queen of the Ring developments going on. Vince McMahon latest. We'll bend Robert's attorney ear here and get some insight on that. Eddie Kingston got hurt. I want to talk about that a little bit. And will we see Punk by SummerSlam? That's an interesting thing to pitch out there. But let's start with Raw, Robert.
Okay. Sorry, Billy. We'll get to you later.
Have something, did you want to touch upon the Billy? Oh no, Robert is frozen.
I'm frozen?
Now you're good.
That was weird.
Yes.
I clicked on another screen to go pull up the Billy. This is what happens. Even my computer was like, you're not allowed to do the Billy in the CW news. Today, I think right now, on the CW app, Billy Corgan's Adventures in Carneyland is streaming.
Unbelievable. Yeah. How did I not put that on the rundown?
Here's the craziest thing of all this. This is not to kill a good gimmick or anything or peel back the curtain, but EC3, who is part of the NWA, a friend of mine, he had posted this on his private Facebook page, which we are private Facebook friends, and he's like, oh, this show is on tonight. And I was like, oh, I should probably mention that on the show today. Had no idea that this show was even debuting tonight. Haven't read anything about it. I know we talked about it was going to be a thing. And look, we are your headquarters for all Billy in the CW news. The biggest takeaway I have, Mr. D'Angelo.
Yes.
You are a man of many podcasts, many talents. You have tentacles all throughout the wrestling world. How has Billy Corgan not been a guest on this show?
That's a great question. I have never interviewed Billy Corgan actually either. So
kids, get on the Twitter gimmick. Get on the Twitter machine. Tweet Mr. Billy Corgan and tell him that he is missing out on an open invitation to come join us here on Rumor and Innuendo for an episode. I think it's about time that we have a chat with Billy Corgan of the NWA and also of REM.
Yes, I agree. And a little discussion of REM. Love What's the Frequency, Kenneth. Shiny Happy People.
Tom, we got 26 minutes to go and actual stuff to talk about. All due respect to Billy in the CW. Where are we? Fun peek behind the curtain. Dom sends out his rundown as he does every day, and he does a fantastic job with it. Except today's rundown, which still had last Friday's SmackDown preview. So yes. I can be a better prognosticator about what I think is going to happen in the Randy Orton AJ Styles match. But we'll see.
Well, I made some adjustments on the rundown here. Let's talk about Raw instead.
Hey,
yeah, how about that? What was your big takeaway here, Robert? It was full disclosure here. I have it recorded on my DVR, but my DVR did not record it, so it was too full, and I did not get it. So I watched a lot of the highlights and stuff on YouTube, tried to catch up the best I can. But what was your biggest takeaway from Monday night here, Robert?
My biggest takeaway is that you should be watching Raw live.
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. Now I want to know what the hell's sitting on your DVR. But no.
It was a lot of Raws. It was a lot of Raws, a lot of Dynamites, a lot of NXTs.
Wow. Yes. Oh, I have like sitting on my DVR, like taunting me, Rampage and Collision that I just never watch. Like, unless there's something major, I don't go back and watch it, but it's still there. still on the DVR, taking up valuable space. And then I go and delete it, and I feel bad, but I don't feel bad enough to actually go and watch it. But Raw, a couple things. I think first and foremost, hold on, Xfinity is reaching out to me. My tech will be arriving as soon as possible. That is the most ominous message I've ever seen. As soon as possible.
No ETA.
We don't know where he is. We don't know if he's coming, but as soon as he gets around to showing up, he'll be here, which means I'll be here. Raw, King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring qualifying matches was really, really interesting in a couple ways. Number one, they're leaning into Io Sky as being a babyface, essentially. Her and Shayna Baszler tore it up. Hell of a match. They need to give Shayna Baszler a lot more time. Let her develop. Her and Io Sky were incredible. Michael Cole name-dropping Stardom during the match, something you don't typically hear. I think Io Sky, they're realizing what an incredible star she really is after already being women's champion. Gunther and Kofi Kingston was a very fun match. I think that I was surprised at how much offense they gave Kofi, but this crowd in Greenville, South Carolina, where my wife lived for a couple of years, Greenville loved this match. They were chanting, "This is awesome." They were there for the ride. They kind of believed that Gunther was going to lose to Kofi, and that's how good of a performer Kofi Kingston is. And he's such a great guy to have on a deep bench roster like they do. And they were teasing Kofi doing something with Karrion Kross. Maybe we're going to see New Day corrupted turn heel. Don't know, but really interesting that they're at least going to do something here. Goes back to what I've said before. When you have these tournament matches and you lead to other stories, it makes it more successful. So the fact that Io Sky is winning and now seems to be more of a babyface, while Damage Control is decidedly not. Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark both losing in singles matches. Will they reunite as a tag team, or are they going to start feuding with each other? Now Kofi dejected, losing. Is he going to wind up feuding with Karrion Kross? A lot of fun questions. Other big takeaways, Ludwig Kaiser continues in the limited time that they give him to develop a really interesting, exciting character. His promo work backstage, making threats to Sheamus. I love it. I love the build. I think he's got a really unique look. You know, Tiffany and Stratton and I both have different opinions of what his look is. To me, I just think on TV, he's an interesting looking cat. His promo skills constantly developing beyond just the harbinger of Galactus, Gunther, and is kind of standing on his own 2 feet of a dastardly heel. Like to see it. The Gable stuff, fracturing with him in the Alpha Academy further. When they put him with the Creed brothers kids, we're gonna be living the high life. New number 1 contender for the tag titles, Finn Balor and JD McDonough. I've been so underwhelmed with Awesome Truth. They really haven't done much. They haven't given a lot of opportunities. The DIY stuff didn't do anyone any favors. So now we're hopefully going to see something happen with those tag titles. They teased Ilya Dragunov, Gunther, but then in the main event, Jey Uso defeating Dragunov clean.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of outrage on the internets. People not super thrilled, super happy. Guys, we are in the Paul Triple H Levesque era, the PLE, the Paul Levesque era, as someone has coined that on here before. They know where they're going. They teased Dragunov Gunther, but they know they're not giving that to you next week live on Raw. Like, you're going to build a little bit of anticipation. There are people who were mad that Jey Uso won clean. Dragunov, I'm wearing my kayfabe shirt, available on Pro Wrestling Tees. Within the world of kayfabe, Jey Uso was the number 1 contender for the world title. He is an established veteran who's been around for many years. He is a main eventer, even by name. Ilya Dragunov has been on Raw for 3 weeks. So it makes sense that Dragunov would lose clean to Jey Uso based on hierarchy and logic. I get that we wanted to see Gunther and Dragunov. I would be more excited to see Gunther and Dragunov than I am to see Gunther and Jey Uso. I feel like that's a program that you can get to down the line. But it's still a big match to advertise for next week. And when Jey Uso loses next week, I'm sure it would be for some storyline reason.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Gunther is on the fast track to being the King of the Ring. But the only exception I will take, because they did make that full match available, Dragunov versus.
Okay, again, I wasn't sure what you saw, didn't
Yeah,
see.
so
I'm
I
just
got to
trying to
watch
plow
all of
through.
that match. I got to watch all that match. I'm totally fine with Ilya losing clean. That's a-okay with me. But I don't like that he kicked out of the H-bomb, that or whatever it was. What's it
Yeah,
called? That,
the
that
H-bomb.
was not a good. I did not like that whatsoever. That's a move that should always keep somebody down. And for the Dragunov just being 3 weeks in on Raw on the main roster and his finisher already getting kicked out of, I think that was a big mistake. But I do like. I'm okay with him not facing Gunther yet. But a big misstep, I think, in him not put the finisher putting Jey Uso down. They should not have used it whatsoever.
No, I think when he hits the H-bomb, the other person should be down for the count. And guys, when you're ready to hit your lady friend with your own personal H-bomb, may we recommend our friends at Blue Chew. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Let's talk about sex. Guys, you were always ready to go. Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Visit BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. No visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Ilya Dragunov has been tearing it up on the scene. He's hard-hitting, he's impactful, and guys, you're going to be hard-hitting and impactful because Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code.
Rumor. If you don't see it, Robert, because he's frozen. Guys, let me know if he's frozen. If not, enjoy the Blue Chew ad. But yes, promo code Rumor. Get it. It's good stuff. We want to help you out. We want to lift everybody up like Billy in the CW lifts everybody up with Adventures in Carneyland, which I just read. All full 8 episodes are here. They're available on the CW, so you can check that out right now. Well, after you watch the rest of this. But if we do not see him, let me take over a little bit here. We have more to cover too. And I did want to kind of talk about what else I kind of saw with Chad Gable, kind of showing some disrespect, if you will, to Otis. I wanted Otis to kind of stand up for himself a little bit weeks ago when Chad Gable turned heel. Robert's gone now. He will be back, I'm sure. But I did not like him not standing up for Maxine Dupree in particular. But him getting smacked this week on Raw, you can definitely see the crowd is going to be behind Otis moving forward, even despite the fact that, they're slow building this and things like that. So very intriguing stuff when it comes to things like that. I was upset I did not get to see all of Raw. So checking the highlights and stuff like that, it does the trick, but it also doesn't do the trick in certain ways. So, Robert, you're back.
I was in the middle of talking about Blue Chew.
Yes.
And guys, unlike Blue Chew, my Wi-Fi cut out on me. Not the performance that I wanted to give here.
No.
The fun part of it, this has now turned into the story of the episode. I get a ping from Xfinity. They're like, we're testing your system before the technician arrives. No heads up, no warning. They turn off my Wi-Fi in the middle of talking about this. That was fun. BlueChew.com promo code Rumor. Dom, what were you talking about while I was...
So, while you were gone, I was just touching upon Otis and Chad Gable and saying how I was not for when Otis didn't stand up for Maxine Dupree weeks ago, but you can tell the crowd's still going to be behind him in this storyline where it's just like they want to see him kind of get his comeuppance, or Chad Gable get his comeuppance to get it's Otis. So that's kind of where it was at last time.
So what I kind of liked about the Otis thing, the Otis Gable thing, was Gable, yes, he's a jerk and whatever, but his advice to Otis was don't do the worm. And then when Otis does the worm, he loses.
Yeah.
So it's like, you listen to me, you go to the top. That was the old Bobby Heenan thing. If he was listening to Gable, he could have won. And the reason why he lost was because he went and did his comedy wacky nonsense. Dig it. Love. By the way, I'm saying dig it. I was listening, making sure I didn't freeze again. Did I freeze again?
No, you're still
it was
good.
just Dom's face. It was just your face. You just like the way you froze up there for a moment was like, oh, cool. It's just Dom's natural appearance. Oh, and now my alarm. Oh, I love it. You can't make this stuff up. Dom, I will be right back.
Dog's going nuts. Chatting. That's okay. We're good to go. Guys, I'm going to table the Vince McMahon news here for a second because I really want Robert's insight on this. But I will move ahead. I will plug forward. And we're going to talk about Eddie Kingston getting hurt. He lost the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship to Gabe Kidd at New Japan Resurgence. And sustained some injuries during the match. He was hurt during a table suplex spot. And according to, I believe it's Fightful, Sean, a friend of the show, Sean Ross Sapp, he is hurt legitimately. It's quite the predicament for. I understand that he was New Japan associated. He had this title. But it kind of also speaks to the fact that letting your talent work outside of your own promotion is a little difficult. So it makes it very tough. Eddie Kingston, like Robert mentioned here last week, that how valuable Eddie Kingston was going to be in the Stadium Stampede match because he's kind of like the heart of ECW, almost the ECW. He's kind of the heart of AEW, like Tommy Dreamer was for ECW. So him being out of this match means a lot. I think Eddie Kingston is one of the best stars that AEW has. And, you could plug him in as a babyface or a heel, and he would fit that role very well. So losing him for a match like this, it's a big takeaway from the Stadium Stampede match. Granted, you'll have your own thoughts about how the Young Bucks, the Elite, Jack Perry, how that whole storyline's been unfolding, if it's really a valuable top act kind of thing. But you had such a good compliment with Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston, and FTR going together. It's a little bit, it elevates it a little bit because of those guys, I think. And losing Eddie, I think, is a huge, huge miss for AEW, and it's unfortunate. So hope he gets healthy soon. Want to get your guys' thoughts. Why do you think that it's more of a common occurrence? It seems AEW, the stars get injured a little bit more. And that it seems like, and they get more devastated by these losses. It kind of speaks to AEW not having that ammunition of stars, if you will. They don't build them properly. There's plenty of talent on the roster. There's plenty of guys you can get over and gals you can get over. But it speaks to the notion of attention to detail week after week, where you don't have those guys and gals built in the appropriate fashion. And so when you lose someone like Eddie Kingston, when you lose an Adam Cole, when you lose a Bryan Danielson, and you don't follow up with, what's going on, their situation, things like that. Will Ospreay goes overseas, like to be with his family and stuff like that. You cannot plug in and play certain people to make it feel that important. And I think that is such a huge misstep on AEW's part. And it's infuriating. It's been infuriating since the start, since we've gotten these major talents going over there. I remember when Marcus, my brother, and I, we had that show, Two Dynamite Dudes on WrestleZone. We would be talking, that would all we could focus on is AEW. And the excitement that was building for seeing a Cesaro jump over, seeing a Samoa Joe jump over, you name it. And like what the women's division was going to do, like the names like Thunder Rosa, the names like Serena Deeb, when like she was getting built the proper way, all made more sense and all was creating this excitement, what the open possibilities and the stars that weren't quite established yet, but you thought were going to get established. I even bring up, somebody that always comes to mind for me is Sunny Kiss. And like the opportunity that she had to kind of get over if they positioned her in the right way, and even her and Joey Janela together, I thought was really, really cool. And I know that Joey Janela is a polarizing figure, things like that. But when you put them in a tandem like that, and you see maybe what like Cody Rhodes, what he saw in Sunny Kiss, it really speaks to like the excitement that you could build out of these stars and establish them. WWE is clearly doing that right now with all these stars. So Robert mentioned it. there's all these story elements going into the King of the Ring tournament where you get these sudden King of the Ring or these sudden tournament matches announced on AEW. No build, not they're dream matches, but they don't. There's no build to them. So what's the excitement? It's just forgettable. It's forgettable. You look at Wardlow, you look at all these stuff, and so it goes back to what I'm talking about when it comes to Eddie Kingston. Losing a star like him, losing a personality like him, I think it's going to do it's a huge loss to the match. Huge loss to the match. So, guys, give me your thoughts in the chat. By the way, we're now live. I made sure we are now live on the X account of Working Stiff, the new podcast, the refurbished podcast, I guess, if you will, of Wrestle Roast. So go to Work Stiff Pod. That's what it is on X. Give us a follow and listen to the new episodes. We got some good content coming up here. Robert will give you a little bit more details if he gets back in time. But yes, I wanted to include that in the rundown this today because it's like an understated story, but he's such a loss. And Double or Nothing, this is the first Double or Nothing I will not be at this year. Every year since its beginning, since the inception, I was at the ticket announcement party back in February 2019. So right when the launch of AEW was there, I was there for media. I was there May, that inaugural Double or Nothing. And I was there every year. This month, from a financial standpoint and just from a logistics standpoint, I can't do it this year. I would, if it felt valuable, if it felt like it was worth my time, I would try to make an effort and go. But me thinking logically throughout the rest of the year of what I want to do, the game plans I have, stuff I want to, utilize, I foregoed it this year. And that's telling. That is telling because I love Vegas. I like AEW. I wanted to succeed. We all wanted to succeed if you're a wrestling fan, but just telling to it. All right. Moving on. We got Punk. The rumor is that Punk will be back by SummerSlam. Potentially. Dave Meltzer on the latest Wrestling Observer Radio says Punk's not that far from being back, most likely. If he had his surgery at the end of January, you're looking at the end of July, August, maybe September. It's not that far away anymore. He might make SummerSlam. And if he can make SummerSlam, Punk and Drew for the title, that makes a lot of sense. That's obviously what they've been building to for WrestleMania through the past of it all, through, the injury loss and great storyline stuff with Punk being out on the shelf. Drew has just been doing his best heel work. We praise him all the time on here, and rightfully so, because he's just doing awesome stuff. So him not Punk being off the shelf, they've been utilizing the best they can. And I think using him appropriately. He's not really overstaying his welcome. I know his promo wasn't the best last week, but, he's still a star, and you still got that presence there. So, yeah. Uh-oh, we got to add Robert back to stage. There you go. How's it going? Oh, you're muted, Robert. You're muted. Am I muted? Did I mute
Even
you?
better, it's a barrel of monkeys here. They're working on the system. I don't know what we're talking about, but I agree. Unless I don't.
Thanks. I talked about Eddie Kingston being hurt, and
that sucks that he's hurt, and it sucks even worse that it was like not on one of their shows.
That's exactly what I said.
Why I've always been opposed to guys working outside of their company, unless it's a guy you're not doing something with. Then let him go learn a new hold elsewhere. Like if it's Lance Archer and he's going to go to New Japan and he's going to hone and refine his skills, then come back and be more valuable. Great. Definitely do that. But don't take a guy that's main eventing your next pay-per-view and let him go wrestle on a show elsewhere.
Well, let me get your perspective on this, because I really want to. I mean, maybe we table the Vince stuff for tomorrow, because I do want your insight on all that kind of thing. What I kind of want to talk about is the fact, why do you think? Well, is the injuries more common, do you think, in AEW, or do you think it's more telling to the fact that they haven't built stars appropriately, that you can kind of plug in and play certain guys when you lose guys or gals like WWE has? Like WWE has lost a lot of stars, but they put people in, and it seems like they don't really miss a beat. AEW, this is what I was saying when you were gone. They miss a lot of beats because they don't build their stars appropriately. Do you think there's something more to that?
They don't build their stars, and what they do is they count on a lot of their stars trading off of prior reputation.
Yes.
Same thing we just saw with Okada coming in. What about Okada coming in has made him seem big time versus, well, we know this guy is really big time. And people get mad at me. Oh, you're bagging on one company or the other. Tama Tonga is a perfect example of a guy that came in with a reputation. It wasn't even a great reputation. With the last stuff he was doing in New Japan, he was, according to Scott Chaplin, he was just a babyface who was there.
Yeah.
And now he feels like a genuine top threat. They're constantly worrying about who we're going to build next. AEW doesn't build guys because there's no long-term continuity. They want to put together great matches. Awesome. But when you get invested in a character and then the character just sort of disappears, it becomes very difficult. You know, you look at the Acclaimed, get white hot, and then they're off TV for a long time. FTR, it's constantly like hokey pokey. House of Black for a long time, just not being used. Wardlow, Hook, they have the talent that's clearly there. They just don't position them in the, if I need to go, hey, we got to go. I was talking about this with Dan St. Germain for a Working Stiff episode that actually is dropping later today. And I said, you know, Raw right now is a little bit of kind of going through the motions just because it's summer. But you went into this Damian Priest world champion situation and everybody else involved in that story is gone. Punk is out injured. Drew is out injured. Seth is out injured. So you're constantly playing a little bit of catch up here, but at least you're like, okay, well, we can just go with Jey Uso. We can use Jey Uso in the interim, or we can modify, make Priest kind of the babyface, do him and Drew, because we know we got Gunther sitting there waiting to go. And then Ilya Dragunov, he's been on Raw for 3 weeks and he already feels like a guy that, yeah, you can put him in the main event and people absolutely believe it. On the AEW side, they have an insane bench of talent that unfortunately don't mean as much as they should. And it's too split and bifurcated for anybody to really truly understand it.
Yes, 100%. What I said too when you were gone was like I was even mentioning stars that are no longer there that you like early on. You're like, oh, what's this star about? How can you kind of build this? I mentioned Sunny Kiss, how like I was fascinated by maybe what they were going to do with her and go up against Cody Rhodes. Like, and Cody Rhodes had that match, and then you're seeing like names that you kind of were off the radar that AEW could make homegrown talent and they didn't utilize.
Yes.
And then it just seems like a loss on stuff. And you even mentioned somebody like a Lance Archer, who I was like, oh, they got more to do with him. They got more to do with him. And now he's just there. He just shows up and he's there.
He's just there. The guys that I thought had a lot of equity, Penta and Phoenix, insanely Penta is insanely marketable. They weren't selling his mask. When you had Luchasaurus and Dragon Boy, that is a Dragon Boy. Wow, Jungle Boy. That's a better name. Jungle Boy. That's a kids act that they should have been really pushing and selling. Orange Cassidy, in a lot of ways, is their Undertaker.
Yeah.
And they didn't preserve that mystique. So they just want to do what they want to do in a very niche, narrow way. And that's fine. But you can't hold yourself up and say, we are the Pepsi to WWE's Coke if you're not going to believe that. That's what Tony Khan said. He's like, we're Pepsi. Okay. But if you want to just be, we're going to do dream matches and we're going to do some New Japan style stuff and it's going to be fun, cool. But don't get mad when people compare you to the other company because you're holding yourself out as that and going, well, how come they can do it and you can't? And you're seeing it kind of in the ratings. And I think that's what's unfortunate. What's not unfortunate, guys, is this is not the only place you can hear Dominic D'Angelo. I didn't really have a segue. I was going to say, we were pushing your Dominic D'Angelo. Then I was going to say, because like you've almost kind of heard me through about 11 minutes of this episode. Appreciate it. That's the beauty of doing this thing live, man. We're live, pal.
You got to shoot from the hip sometimes. That's it. But guys, we do shoot from the hip at all their shows too. One of a Kind with RVD. We had that yesterday. Dropped at 4:20 p.m. every Monday. Go to rvdtv.com. New episode. We talk Jacob Fatu. We talk a little Kurt Angle before the solar flares freeze up RVD too. Like we had tech difficulties today. We had it on Rob too. So I don't know. Maybe I'm the common denominator here. But we didn't have technical difficulties on Straight Talk with the Boss, which dropped this morning. Episode 19, my favorite episode to date. We talk about Magnum TA's car accident, and it gets emotional. Like there's, you guys got to tune in for it. It's really good. Magnum gives some great insight and just good perspective, good life perspective on it all. And yeah, really eye-opening. So check that out. Go to fourhorsemannetwork.com. Check it out. Robert, you were talking about working stiff. We got some special episode coming up.
Yeah. So Working stiff, yeah. So the regular episode that dropped on Friday, Dan and I did a special something to sports entertainment with edition of Working Stiff, which is usually part of our Patreon, but we decided to do it for the free. Everybody can listen to tier. Dan's going to be traveling later this week on tour, so it'll be me and Scott Chaplin on the main Working Stiff show, which will be a lot of fun. But Dan and I sat down. We talked about Raw. We got into a whole conversation about comedians and wrestlers and the similarities and differences, which was really, really interesting. For those of you who don't know, my co-hosts, Dan St. Germain, Mike Lawrence, and Scott Chaplin, all professional comedians. Mike and Dan both worked on the Tom Brady roast.
Yeah.
So that was a hell of a lot of fun. You can go and quick plug for those guys. Mike on the road traveling with Pete Davidson, and Dan is going to be in Washington, D.C. later on this week. So you can go check him out there. He's also got a YouTube special called Dance Fatty Dance. But we're here, not dancing. We're sitting. We're talking pro wrestling every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern on Rumor and Innuendo. You can catch it on X at WWCreative_ISH. Dominic D'Angelo, SE Scoops. You got it up on the Working Stiff podcast Twitter account, I see. Look at that. Podcast Heat is who makes this show possible. And on YouTube, on ad-free shows and Rumor and Innuendo. So on behalf of the man who keeps the technical glitches to a bare minimum, Dominic D'Angelo, I'm Robert Karpelis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
We'll see you Wednesday, guys.